The stars outside the observation window of the Galactic Council station looked peaceful. Captain Taemin Park stood with his hands behind his back, watching ships from 100 different worlds drift past. Some looked like crystals, others like living creatures. His own ship, the Defiant Hope, was simple by comparison. Just metal and engines, human design. "Captain, they're ready for us," said Dr. Hana Lee, walking up beside him. She carried a datapad filled with information about the species they were about to meet. The Kryn hegemony, a race of reptilian warriors who had conquered 47 star systems in the last 100 years. Taemin nodded. "How bad is it going to be?" Hana looked at her notes. "Bad. They don't negotiate. They demand. And they usually get what they want because everyone is too scared to say no." Lieutenant Dong-wook Kim appeared in the doorway. He was younger than both of them, but he had sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Ambassador Yuna is already in the council chamber. She said to take our time. She wants them to wait." Taemin smiled slightly. That sounded like Yuna. She was Earth's representative to the Galactic Council, and she never showed fear. Not when she was negotiating trade deals, and certainly not when facing threats. The three of them made their way through the station's corridors. Aliens of every shape and size moved past them. Some nodded in greeting. Others pretended not to see the humans. Earth was still relatively new to galactic politics. Only 800 years since first contact. Most species took 3,000 years or more to reach the stars. The council chamber was enormous. It could hold representatives from 200 worlds. Today, it was packed. Everyone wanted to see what the Kryn would demand from the humans. At the center of the room stood High Commander Vorthak. He was nearly 8 feet tall, covered in dark green scales, with yellow eyes that seemed to glow. Next to him was Chancellor Drexus, thinner but no less intimidating. Both wore armor, even here, in a place of peace. Ambassador Yuna sat calmly in the human delegation's seat. She was small compared to most aliens in the room, but she sat like she owned the place. Taemin and the others took their positions behind her. Vorthak's voice boomed across the chamber. "We come with a simple message for the human government. You will surrender 12 of your colony worlds to the Kryn hegemony. Within 30 days, you will evacuate all citizens and leave all infrastructure intact. If you comply, we will allow your species to continue existing in the galaxy." The chamber went silent. Several alien delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Yuna stood slowly. "And if we refuse?" Vorthak showed his teeth. It might have been a smile. "Then we will take them by force, and we will not be merciful to those who remain." One of the senior council members, a floating jellyfish-like creature named Executor Vin, spoke up. "Ambassador Yuna, perhaps your government should consider this offer carefully. The Kryn have never lost a military conflict. They have 10,000 warships. Your entire fleet numbers less than 1,000. 843 ships, Drexus added helpfully. Hana leaned forward and whispered to Yuna. "They've done their homework." Yuna nodded but didn't sit down. She looked directly at Vorthak. "High Commander, I appreciate you traveling all this way to deliver your demands in person. It shows respect, even if your words do not. So let me respond with equal clarity. The answer is no." Vorthak's eyes widened slightly. Around the chamber, delegates gasped or made whatever sounds their species made when shocked. "You refuse?" Vorthak said slowly, as if he couldn't believe what he was hearing. "I, though," Yuna said calmly. "Those 12 worlds are home to 73 million human citizens. They are not yours to take. And if you want them, you'll have to come and take them." Dong-wook muttered under his breath. "That's an old human saying. I don't think he knows what it means." Vorthak stepped forward. "You dare to challenge the Kryn hegemony? You, who have been in space for less than 1,000 years. You, whose worlds are soft and weak." Yuna smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. I dare. And so does every human in the galaxy. We have a saying, Commander. We don't start fights, but we finish them, Drexus laughed. It was a harsh, rattling sound. Your bravado is amusing but foolish. We have studied your military. You fight with honor. Yes, but honor means nothing against overwhelming force. You will lose, and your people will suffer for your pride. Taemin watched Yuna carefully. She didn't flinch, didn't hesitate. She simply nodded. Perhaps. But you should know something about humans before you commit to this path. We have fought 12 wars since we reached the stars. We have won all 12. We have never surrendered. We have never abandoned our people. And we have never, not once, allowed an enemy to take what is ours. There is always a first time, Vorthak said. He turned to address the council. Let this be recorded. The human government has rejected our generous offer. In 30 days, the Kryn fleet will move against the 12 designated colony worlds. Any species that interferes will be considered an enemy of the hegemony. With that, Vorthak and Drexus walked out of the chamber. Their heavy footsteps echoed in the silence they left behind. Executor Vin floated down to the human delegation. Ambassador, please reconsider. The Kryn are not bluffing. They have done it before to others who refused them. Yuna gathered her papers. I appreciate your concern, Executor. But Earth does not abandon its citizens. Ever. If the Kryn want war, they'll get one. As the council session ended, Taemin followed Yuna out of the chamber. You know they're going to attack, right? This isn't a bluff. I know, Yuna said. That's why you're leaving immediately. Go back to Earth. The War Council will need every ship captain with combat experience. Hannah pulled out her data pad. Ambassador, I've been researching something. It might be important. What is it? The Kryn have fought 23 wars in the last 200 years. They've won every single one. But I looked at Earth's history too. In the past 800 years, 12 species have challenged us. 3 are extinct. 7 sued for peace within 6 months. 2 became our allies after we defeated them. Dongwook raised an eyebrow. That's actually a worse record than the Kryn. Hana nodded. Exactly. So why does everyone in the galaxy warn against challenging the Kryn, but nobody warns against challenging humans? Yuna looked at her thoughtfully. Maybe because we don't brag about it. We don't conquer. We don't build empires. We just defend what's ours. Or maybe, Taemin said quietly, because the people who challenged us aren't around to warn others. They walked in silence for a moment. Then Yuna stopped. Taemin, when you get back to Earth, tell Admiral G1 something for me. Tell her the Kryn think we're weak because we're compassionate. Tell her it's time to remind the galaxy what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness. Taiming saluted. Yes, Ambassador. As the Defiant Hope prepared to depart the station, Taemin stood on the bridge and watched the stars again. Somewhere out there, the Kryn fleet was mobilizing. 10,000 warships against humanity's 800. The numbers didn't look good, but numbers never told the whole story when it came to humans. Dongwook sat at his station, running calculations. Captain, at their fleet's maximum speed, the Kryn can reach our nearest colony in 31 days. Then, we have 30 days to get ready, Taemin said. Set course for Earth. Maximum speed. As the ship jumped to faster-than-light travel, none of them saw the message being broadcast across Kryn communication channels. High Commander Vorthak, addressing his fleet commanders. Prepare for total war. The humans will learn their place in the galaxy. And if they will not kneel, we will break them. But they also didn't see the message being sent from Earth's defense headquarters. Admiral G1 Song, addressing every human ship captain in the galaxy. They've made their choice. Now we make ours. All ships, return to your assigned positions. All colonies, Begin evacuation of non-combatants. All citizens capable of fighting. Report to your local defense coordinator. The Kryn want a war. Let's give them one. They'll never forget. The oldest rule in the galaxy was about to be proven true once again. Do not challenge the humans. The Kryn were about to learn why. The defiant hope cut through space at maximum speed, racing toward Earth. Captain Taman Park sat in his command chair, reviewing reports that came in every hour. The Kryn weren't wasting time. Their fleet was already moving, spreading out to attack positions around the 12 targeted human colonies. Captain, Dongwook called from his station. I'm picking up a lot of chatter on the civilian channels. People are scared. Taman nodded. Of course they were scared. The Kryn had a reputation across the galaxy. When they attacked a world, they left nothing behind but rubble. What are our people saying? Rube. Dongwook listened for a moment, then smiled slightly. Actually, sir, they're not talking about evacuating. They're talking about where to build the gun emplacements. Hana looked up from her research station. That sounds about right. Humans don't run very well. We run fine, Taman said. We just prefer to run toward the enemy. 3 days later, the Defiant Hope entered Earth's orbit. The planet below looked as beautiful as ever, blue and green and white. But the space around it was different now. Hundreds of ships were gathering, from tiny fighters to massive battleships. This was humanity's defense fleet, and it was preparing for war. Admiral Jiwan Song stood in the war room deep beneath Seoul. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that had seen too many battles. Around her, holographic displays showed the positions of every human ship, every colony, every defensive platform in human space. When Taemin entered the room, she looked up. Captain Park. Good. You're here. I need your experience with the Kryn. I've only met them once, Admiral. That's once more than most of us. Ji-won said. She waved her hand and the displays changed, showing a timeline. Let me show you something interesting. This is Earth's military history since first contact. The timeline glowed with dozens of red marks. Each one represented a conflict. The first one was in 2051. Ji-won continued. The Vex Collective made contact with us. They thought we'd be easy to conquer. We had just invented faster-than-light travel. We had maybe 50 ships, all of them slow and weak compared to theirs. What happened? Dongwook asked. We won, Ji-won said simply. The Vex had better technology, better weapons, better shields. But they'd never fought anyone like us before. They expected us to follow the rules of galactic warfare. Stand in lines, fight ship to ship, surrender when outnumbered. Hana leaned forward. But we didn't. No, we didn't. We used asteroids as weapons. We rammed our damaged ships into theirs. We turned our cargo haulers into bombs and flew them right into their fleet formations. We fought dirty, because we didn't know there was supposed to be a clean way to fight. Taemin studied the timeline. And the Vex? They sued for peace after 4 months. They lost 60% of their fleet. We lost 80% of ours. But we kept fighting until they quit. Ji-won pointed to the other red marks. Same story, over and over. Different enemies, different circumstances, but the same result. Humans don't surrender. A new officer entered the room. Colonel Minho Ryu, leader of the Ghost Battalion, humanity's special forces. He was covered in scars and moved like a predator. Admiral, the infiltration teams are ready. Good. Captain Park, let me introduce you to our secret weapon. Minho's teams are going to make the Kryn very uncomfortable before the shooting even starts. Minho nodded to Taemin. We're inserting into Kryn space tonight. 12 teams, 12 targets, supply depots, communication hubs, command posts. We're not going to kill anyone if we can avoid it. We're just going to show them that nowhere is safe. Psychological warfare, Hana said. Exactly, Ji-won confirmed. The Kryn think they're hunting prey. We're going to teach them that they're the ones being hunted. Across the room, another officer approached. Engineer Subin Han carried a datapad and looked excited. Admiral, the new weapons are ready for testing. Show us. Subin activated a holographic display. It showed a strange-looking ship with enormous rails running along its spine. This is the railgun cruiser. It fires solid projectiles at 30% the speed of light. When it hits something, the kinetic energy is equal to a small nuclear weapon. Dongwook whistled. That's insane. That's physics, Subin said happily. But wait. There's more. We've also developed ships that can operate inside stellar coronas. The Kryn shields can't handle that kind of heat, but ours can. We can hide in a star, and they'll never see us coming. And the drone swarms? Ji-won asked. Ready to deploy. We can launch 10,000 autonomous fighters from a single carrier. Each one has basic AI and can coordinate with the others. The Kryn have never fought against anything like this. Taemin felt a chill run down his spine. These weren't defensive weapons. These were weapons designed to hurt an enemy so badly they'd never come back. Ji-won saw his expression. You think we're going too far, Captain? I think we're preparing to fight a war we didn't start, Taemin said carefully. But yes, Admiral. This feels like overkill. Good. That's exactly what I want. The Kryn need to learn a lesson. When you challenge humans, you don't just lose. You lose so badly you never want to fight again. Over the next week, reports started coming in from the colonies. Civilians were being evacuated, yes, but only the children, the elderly, and the sick. Everyone else was staying. Farmers were picking up rifles. Miners were converting their equipment into weapons. Teachers were organizing defensive positions. The colony of New Sejong sent a message that made the entire War Council pause. Governor Eun Ji-bae appeared on the screen, looking calm. Earth Command. This is New Sejong. We've completed evacuation of non-combatants. Current military personnel, 200,000. Current militia volunteers, 4.8 million. We have enough weapons for everyone, and enough determination for 10 times that many. Tell the Kryn. We're waiting. Ji-won smiled. Now that's the human spirit. Minho's Ghost Battalion struck their first target on day 12. They infiltrated a Kryn supply depot in neutral space and planted explosives throughout the facility. But they didn't detonate them. Instead, they left a message painted on the wall in the Kryn language. Leave now. This is your only warning. The Kryn found the message and the explosives. They were furious, but also confused. Why warn them? Why not just destroy the depot? High Commander Vorthak received the report and threw it aside. Human tricks. They're trying to frighten us. It won't work. But Chancellor Drexus looked worried. Commander, they infiltrated a heavily guarded military installation. They could have killed everyone there. Why didn't they? Quote, Oni Welv. Quote, Welv then. Why didn't they? Quote, Welv there. Quote, Welv there. Quote, Welv there. Because they're weak, Vorthak said. They talk about honor and mercy. These things mean nothing in war. Perhaps, Drexus said quietly. Or perhaps they're showing us that they could strike anywhere, anytime. That's not weakness. That's a threat. On day 15, the Defiant Hope encountered a Kryn scout fleet near the border. 6 ships, heavily armed. They immediately targeted the human vessel. This is Kryn Battle Group 7, came the message. Human ship. You are ordered to surrender immediately. Taemin looked at Dongwook. We're faster than them, but not by much. We can probably outrun them, but they'll chase us all the way to the border. Hana checked her sensors. Captain, there's a nebula 2 million kilometers ahead, dense enough to hide in. Taemin made his decision. Take us into the nebula. Full speed. The Defiant Hope raced forward with the Kryn ships following. As soon as they entered the thick clouds of gas and dust, visibility dropped to almost nothing. The Kryn ships slowed, trying to track the human vessel on sensors. Dong-wook, can you target them through this? Tae-min asked. If they get close enough, yes sir. Then let's get them close. Tae-min ordered the ship to cut engines and drift. The Defiant Hope went silent, invisible in the nebula. The Kryn ships spread out, searching. One of them came within 500 meters. Dong-wook locked weapons and fired. The Kryn ship exploded, the blast lighting up the nebula like a flashbulb. The other Kryn ships immediately converged on the position, but the Defiant Hope was already moving, using the nebula's magnetic fields to mask its engine signature. It came up behind another Kryn ship and fired again. Another explosion. The Kryn panicked. They were supposed to be the hunters, not the hunted. They fired wildly into the nebula, hitting nothing. Over the next hour, Tae-min used every trick he knew. He used debris as decoys. He bounced sensor signals off the nebula's dense particles. He positioned his ship so the Kryn would shoot each other by accident. When it was over, all 6 Kryn ships were destroyed or disabled. The Defiant Hope had minor damage to its hull and a few injured crew members. Nothing serious. As they left the nebula, Hana looked shaken. Captain, we just destroyed 6 military vessels. The Kryn are going to call that an act of war. We're already at war, Tae-min said quietly. They just don't know how badly they've miscalculated. The news of the battle spread quickly. The Galactic Council was in an uproar. Some species demanded that both sides stand down. Others quietly began placing bets on how long the war would last. But in the research labs on Earth, Hana made a discovery that changed everything. She was studying the evolutionary history of every species in the galaxy, trying to understand what made humans different. She found her answer in the fossil record. Every other species in the galaxy had evolved either as prey animals or as ambush predators. They ran from threats, or they waited for threats to come to them. Even the mighty Kryn, for all their strength and technology, were ambush hunters at their core. They waited for opponents to show weakness, then struck. But humans were different. Humans were persistence hunters, pack hunters. They chased their prey for days until it collapsed from exhaustion. They worked together, communicated, adapted their tactics on the fly. Humans were the only species in the galaxy that evolved as apex pack hunters. Hana sent her report to Admiral G1 with a simple note. This is why we always win. We're the only species that thinks like a wolf pack. On day 29, the Kryn fleet reached attack positions around the 12 human colonies. 10,000 warships, ready to strike. High Commander Vorthak sent one final message to Earth. You had your chance to surrender. Now you will learn the price of defying the Kryn hegemony. Admiral G1 broadcast her response across every channel in the galaxy. Come and take them. Day 30 arrived like thunder across the galaxy. The Kryn armada of 10,000 warships moved into position around the first human colony world, New Sejong. High Commander Vorthak stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Conqueror's Fang, watching the planet below through the view screen. Status report, he commanded. Chancellor Drexus checked his displays. The planet has a population of 5 million. We detect defensive platforms in orbit and military installations on the surface. But no significant fleet presence. Just a few hundred ships. Vorthak smiled, showing his rows of sharp teeth. They cannot stop us with a few hundred ships. Send the surrender demand. The message went out on all frequencies. Attention human colony New Sejong. You have 1 hour to surrender unconditionally. All military personnel will disarm. All civilians will remain in their homes. Any resistance will be met with orbital bombardment. You cannot win. You can only choose how many of your people die. On the surface, Governor Unjibei sat in the colony's command center, surrounded by military officers and civilian volunteers. She was an older woman, with steel gray hair and eyes that had seen the colony grow from a small outpost to a thriving world. She listened to the Kryn message, then turned to her defense coordinator. "What's our status? All civilians who wanted to evacuate are gone. Everyone who stayed is armed and ready. We have 4.8 million volunteers, Governor. Farmers, miners, teachers, doctors. Every single one of them refused to leave." Yunji nodded slowly. She pressed the transmit button and sent her response to the Kryn fleet. "This is Governor Unji of New Sejong. We reject your demands. This world is ours. If you want it, come down and take it from us." Then she did something that shocked the Kryn. She began broadcasting music across all frequencies. An old human war anthem, full of drums and horns and voices singing about never giving up, never surrendering. Vorthok was furious. "They mock us. Begin the attack." The Kryn fleet opened fire. Thousands of energy beams and missiles streaked toward the planet. The human orbital platforms returned fire immediately. Explosions lit up the space around New Sejong like fireworks. But the humans were ready. They'd spent 30 days preparing. The orbital platforms weren't just weapons, they were decoys, shields, and traps all at once. Some were designed to explode when hit, taking nearby Kryn ships with them. Others projected false sensor images, making the Kryn waste ammunition on targets that didn't exist. Captain Bo Ra Shin commanded the stealth destroyer Silent Fury. Her ship was one of humanity's newest designs, built specifically to hide from sensors. She waited in the shadow of New Sejong's largest moon, while the battle raged. "Ma'am, the Kryn are focusing on the orbital platforms," her tactical officer reported. "They haven't detected us." "Good," Bo-Ra said calmly. "Wait until they commit fully. Then we strike." On the planet's surface, Private Young Su Nam crouched in a bunker with his platoon. He was young, barely 20 years old, and this was his first real combat. His hands shook as he checked his rifle for the 10th time. "Relax, kid," said Sergeant Haewon Park, a veteran with 20 years of experience. "The Kryn don't know what they're getting into. How can you be so calm?" Young Su asked. "There are 10,000 ships up there," Haewon smiled. "Because I've studied history. Every time someone attacks humans on our own ground, we make them regret it. Just stick to your training and watch your brothers and sisters. We protect each other. That's what humans do." The first Kryn landing ships broke through the atmosphere. They were huge, each one carrying 1,000 warriors. The humans let them land. They let the Kryn troops deploy. They let them march toward the nearest city. Then the trap sprang. The ground beneath the Kryn forces erupted. The colonists had turned their mining explosives into weapons, burying thousands of charges along every approach route. Entire Kryn formations disappeared in clouds of fire and debris. Those who survived the initial blast found themselves under attack from every direction. Humans fired from buildings, from underground tunnels, from positions the Kryn didn't even know existed. And when the Kryn tried to retreat, they found the routes blocked by more explosives and more defenders. Young Su's bunker held a strategic position overlooking a bridge. The Kryn had to cross it to reach the evacuation zones, where human civilians had gathered. Sergeant Haewon had been clear. "We hold this position no matter what. Those are our people behind us." The Kryn came in waves. Hundreds of warriors, each one bigger and stronger than any human. They had better armor, better weapons, better everything. But they didn't have the determination of people fighting for their homes. Young Su fired until his rifle overheated. When those ran out, he and his platoon fell back to the secondary position and started again. The Kryn kept coming. They were brave. Young Su had to admit that. They walked into fire that would make most species retreat. But humans didn't retreat either. The plane heaven art. They smaller Kanakit. Hour after hour. The battle raged. The Kryn took the bridge 3 times. Young Su's platoon took it back 3 times. Bodies piled up on both sides. In space, The battle was equally brutal. The Kryn had numbers, but humans had creativity. Captain Bo-Ra waited until the Kryn flagship moved into position to coordinate the ground assault. Then she struck. The Silent Fury appeared out of nowhere, dropping its stealth field at point-blank range. Bo-Ra targeted the Conqueror's Fang's reactor and fired every weapon she had. The flagship's shields held, but barely. Alarms blared across Vorthak's bridge. "Where did that ship come from?" he roared. Before anyone could answer, the Silent Fury was gone again, vanishing into the chaos of the battle. But now the Kryn knew humans had ships they couldn't detect. Paranoia spread through the fleet. More human ships appeared, attacking from unexpected angles. They didn't fight like a normal fleet. They fought like a pack of wolves, coordinating attacks without seeming to communicate, hitting weak points and then disappearing. Dr. Jae-Sung Kwon watched the battle from Earth's war room. He was a physicist, not a soldier, but his invention was about to change everything. He'd spent the last 5 years developing something called the Alcubierre mine. The concept was simple but devastating. Hide bombs in faster-than-light space, right along the routes ships use to retreat. When enemies try to escape, they run right into the explosions. "Admiral," Jae-Sung said to Ji-won, "the Kryn are starting to pull back. Should I activate the mines?" Ji-won watched the tactical display. The Kryn had lost nearly 1,000 ships trying to take New Sejong. They were regrouping, preparing for a full retreat to regroup. "Activate them," she said quietly. Jae-Sung pressed the button. In space around New Sejong, reality itself seemed to tear. Quantum explosions erupted along every FTL escape route. Kryn ships trying to retreat ran straight into walls of energy that tore them apart. 600 ships were destroyed in seconds. The rest of the Kryn fleet panicked and scattered in all directions. On the ground, the Kryn forces suddenly found themselves cut off from orbital support. Their commanders were screaming for evacuation, but the transport ships were gone, destroyed, or fled. Young Su's platoon held the bridge for 72 hours straight. They used everything they had. When they ran out of military equipment, they improvised. Mining tools became weapons. Construction equipment became barricades. Even farming machinery was turned into makeshift artillery. The Kryn warriors fought bravely, but they'd never encountered an enemy like this. Humans who simply refused to stop fighting. Humans who turned everything around them into weapons. Humans who would rather die than surrender a single inch of their world. After 3 days, the Kryn ground forces began to surrender. Not all of them, but enough. The ones who didn't surrender fought until they physically couldn't continue. In orbit, what remained of the Kryn fleet regrouped. Vorthak's flagship was damaged but still operational. He counted his losses and felt something he'd never experienced before. Fear. "Commander, we've lost 3,000 ships," Drexus reported, his voice shaking. 3,000. And we still haven't taken the planet. Vorthak stared at the view screen. "How is this possible? They're just humans. They're supposed to be weak." "They are weak," Drexus said. "Each one is weaker than our warriors. Their ships are slower than ours. Their weapons are less advanced. But they fight like they're the ones with superior numbers." "Everyone has something to lose," Vorthak said. "Not humans," a new voice said. It was one of the Kryn intelligence officers. "They're singing. They're telling jokes. They're making plans for dinner after the battle. They're not acting like people who think they might lose. They're acting like people who know they'll win eventually." Vorthak wanted to order another attack. He wanted to burn the planet to ash. But he looked at his fleet and realized he couldn't. He'd lost 30% of his forces taking one human world, and he still didn't actually control it. "Fall back," he ordered quietly. "We regroup and plan a new strategy." As the Kryn fleet withdrew, the humans on New Sejong celebrated. They'd won. They'd lost many people, both military and civilian. The colony would take years to rebuild, but they'd held their ground. Governor Yoonji stood in the ruins of the command center and sent a message to Earth. "New Sejong reporting. The enemy has withdrawn. We remain free. Admiral G1 received the message and allowed herself a small smile. Then she looked at the tactical display showing the other 11 colony worlds. The Kryn were moving forces into position around all of them. "One down," she said. 11 to go. And this time, we go on the offensive. In the Kryn fleet, Vorthak sat alone in his quarters. He'd just received reports from his other battle groups. They were all reporting the same thing. Fierce human resistance, unexpected tactics, heavy casualties. For the first time in his life, High Commander Vorthak considered the possibility that the Kryn might lose this war. Across the galaxy, other species watched the battle recordings in shock. The humans had won against impossible odds. The Galactic Council emergency session was filled with worried voices. The Kryn lost 3,000 ships to take one world, and then they retreated anyway, one delegate said. "How is that possible?" "Because humans don't fight like anyone else," another replied. "They don't calculate odds. They don't weigh costs. They just fight until they win, or there's nothing left to fight with." The oldest rule in the galaxy was being proven true once again. Do not challenge the humans. The Kryn were learning this lesson the hard way. The Kryn fleet retreated from New Sejong. But High Commander Vorthak wasn't ready to give up. He'd lost 3,000 ships, but he still had 7,000. More than enough to crush the humans if he was smarter about it. "We made a mistake," he told his commanders during an emergency meeting. "We underestimated them. We won't do that again." Chancellor Drexus pulled up a tactical map. "Commander, we should focus our forces. Instead of attacking all 12 colonies at once, we should pick the weakest ones and overwhelm them with superior numbers." Vorthak nodded. "Agreed. Send 7,000 ships to New Busan. It's their second largest colony. When we take it, the others will lose hope." What Vorthak didn't know was that Captain Tae-min Park's ship, the Defiant Hope, had been on a secret mission for the past 2 weeks. While the Kryn were focused on the human colonies, Tae-min had been traveling through Kryn space, visiting the species they'd conquered. The Kryn hegemony ruled over 47 star systems, but only 12 of those were actually Kryn. The other 35 belonged to species that had been forced to surrender, species that still remembered what freedom felt like. Tae-min sat across from the leader of the Talon people, a bird-like species that had been conquered 30 years ago. "We're offering you a chance," he said simply. "Rise up now, while the Kryn are distracted. We'll provide weapons and support." The Talon leader, whose name translated as Sky Keeper, looked skeptical. "We gain allies," Tae-min said. "And you gain your freedom. The Kryn started this war. They thought they could bully us. But humans don't get bullied. We fight back, and we help others who want to fight back too." Skykeeper was silent for a long moment. "If we do this and fail, the Kryn will exterminate us. If you do this and succeed, you'll be free," Tae-min countered. "And I promise you, the Kryn are going to lose this war. We've already proven that at New Sejong. They lost 3,000 ships trying to take one colony. How many do you think they'll lose trying to hold an empire when half their subjects are in open revolt?" Over the next week, Tae-min made the same offer to 2 other species, the scaled Draviks and the insect-like Chitarii. All 3 species had been waiting for a chance like this. On day 45 of the war, the revolts began. 3 species, 35 star systems, all rising up at the same time. The Kryn were forced to split their forces. They sent 2,000 ships to deal with the rebellions, leaving only 5,000 for the attack on New Busan. Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral G1 was planning something unprecedented. She called it Operation Wolfpack. "The Kryn think they're attacking us," she explained to her senior officers. "They think we're defending. But that's not how humans fight. We don't just defend, we attack." Lieutenant Soo-young Park, Tae-min's sister and Earth's chief intelligence officer, stood up. "We've been preparing a special surprise for the Kryn. It's called the Conscience Virus." She activated a holographic display showing a data packet. "This is information. just pure, simple truth. The Kryn government has been lying to their people about this war. They claim we attacked them. They claim we're monsters. But we have recordings of Vorthok's initial demands. We have battle footage showing that we only fired in self-defense. We have everything. And you're going to spread this through their networks? Another officer asked. Already started, Su Young said with a smile. Dr. Hyunwoo Lim designed it. It's not a weapon that destroys data. It's a virus that copies truth. It spreads through their communication systems, their entertainment networks, even their military channels. Every Kryn citizen is about to learn that their government started an unjust war and is losing badly. On day 50, the Kryn fleet arrived at New Busan with 5,000 warships. The colony world looked peaceful from orbit. A single gas giant with 3 habitable moons and dozens of orbital stations. But Admiral Ji-won Song was waiting. The human defense fleet had been hiding in the system's Oort cloud, a region of ice and debris at the edge of the star system. 800 human ships, every single vessel Earth had, waited in perfect silence. When the Kryn fleet moved into attack position around New Busan, Ji-won gave the order. All ships, activate and engage. Show them what happens when they corner a wolf pack. 800 human ships roared out of the Oort cloud at maximum speed. They didn't form traditional battle lines. They didn't follow standard tactics. They attacked like wolves, hunting prey, from all directions at once. The Kryn were caught completely off guard. They'd expected to find a few hundred defenders around the colony, not the entire human fleet. The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships operated at reactor outputs that would have been considered suicidal for most species. They pulled maneuvers that generated enough G-forces to kill a Kryn pilot. They fired weapons at ranges most species would consider impossible. Lieutenant Dong-wook Kim, aboard the Defiant Hope, which had returned from its mission, coordinated the attack on the Kryn flagship. All Wolfpack units. This is Dong-wook. Target the flagship on my mark. We fire everything simultaneously. 50 human ships fired at the same instant. Energy beams, missiles, railgun rounds, everything they had. The Kryn flagship's shields held for exactly 2 seconds. Then they collapsed. The ship didn't explode. It was simply torn apart by the sheer amount of firepower. Vorthok barely escaped in a life pod, screaming orders that no one could hear over the chaos. The battle raged for 6 days. 6 days of continuous fighting. The Kryn had the numbers, but humans had something more important. They had the will to never give up. Human crews used combat stimulants to stay awake for days. They rotated positions in the middle of battle, with fresh crew members replacing exhausted ones without ever stopping the fight. They fixed damaged ships while still under fire. They turned destroyed ships into improvised weapons, ramming them into Kryn vessels. Captain Bo Ra Shin's Silent Fury destroyed a Kryn carrier by hiding in its sensor shadow, flying along underneath it for 3 hours, and then firing point-blank into its main hangar bay. The resulting explosion destroyed the carrier and damaged a dozen nearby ships. On New Busan itself, the population watched the battle on every screen available. Governor Tae Yong-han sent a message to the fleet. All of New Busan is watching. We're proud of you. Fight hard, and know that we'll never surrender this world. The message was simple, but it gave the human crews new energy. They weren't just fighting for abstract concepts like freedom or honor. They were fighting for real people, with real faces, who believed in them. By day 3 of the battle, the Kryn had lost 1,000 ships. By day 4, another 1,000. The human losses were heavy too. 300 ships destroyed, another 200 damaged badly. But the humans kept fighting. On day 6, something broke in the Kryn fleet. It wasn't a physical thing. It was psychological. For the first time in their history, the Kryn turned and ran from a battle they were still winning by numbers. They retreated in disorder. Ships fleeing in all directions. Admiral G1 had been waiting for this moment. All ships pursue. Don't let them regroup. And broadcast this message on all frequencies. The Kryn challenged humanity. This is the result. Any species that continues to serve the hegemony will face the same fate. The message was heard across the galaxy. 3 more subject species immediately declared independence from the Kryn. High Commander Vorthok gathered what remained of his fleet. Out of 10,000 ships, he now had fewer than 4,000. And his people were turning against him. The conscience virus had spread across the Kryn homeworld. Protests filled the streets. Kryn citizens demanded answers. Why had their government started a war with humanity? Why were so many of their warriors dying? Why had they been lied to? Chancellor Drexus came to Vorthok with bad news. Commander, the Council of Clans is calling for your resignation. The people are angry. They've seen the battle recordings. They know we started this war, and they know we're losing. I am High Commander, Vorthok snarled. I don't answer to protests. You might not have a choice, Drexus said quietly. There are rumors of a coup. Some of the clan leaders want to surrender to the humans before we lose everything. Vorthok looked at the tactical display. 4,000 ships left. The humans had 500 operational vessels, plus all their colony defenses. The numbers were still in his favor. Technically, but numbers didn't tell the whole story anymore. Prepare the fleet, Vorthok ordered. We attack the human homeworld. If we take Earth, we win. They'll have to surrender. Drexus looked horrified. Commander, that's madness. Earth is the most heavily defended world in human space, and if we attack their homeworld, they'll never stop fighting us. Never. They'll stop when they're dead, Vorthok said. The Kryn fleet began moving toward Earth. It would take them 12 days to arrive. 12 days for Vorthok to either win the war or lose everything. On Earth, Admiral G1 received the intelligence about the Kryn fleet's course. She looked at her officers and smiled. They're coming here. Good. Let's end this. She began issuing orders. Every defense platform around Earth was activated. Every ship that could fly was called home. And most importantly, she activated Project Spear. Dr. Subin Han explained it to the gathered officers. We've been building something special. A weapon that can only be fired once, because it uses resources we'll never have again. But if we fire it, the war ends. What kind of weapon? Someone asked. Subin pulled up a schematic. We're going to turn our moon into a railgun. The room went silent. We've been building electromagnetic launchers across the entire lunar surface. When the Kryn fleet arrives, we fire a barrage of lunar rock at near light speed. Each projectile will have the force of a nuclear weapon. We can fire 10,000 of them simultaneously. That's insane, someone whispered. That's humanity, G1 said. We don't just defend our home. We turn it into a weapon. As the Kryn fleet approached, other events were unfolding across the galaxy. Captain Taemin's coalition of freed species was joining together. 6 species, 90 star systems, all declaring war on the Kryn hegemony. The Galactic Council was in chaos. Some species demanded intervention. Others wanted to stay neutral. A few quietly began sending supplies to the humans. And on the Kryn homeworld, the protests grew larger. Millions of Kryn citizens filled the streets, demanding peace. They didn't want this war. They didn't want to fight humans who refused to be conquered. The stage was set for the final confrontation. The Kryn fleet heading toward Earth. The human defense preparing for the battle of their lives. And High Commander Vorthok, desperate and dangerous, ready to gamble everything on one last attack. The galaxy watched and waited. The oldest rule was about to be proven once more. Do not challenge the humans. Because when you do, they don't just fight back. They fight until you can't fight anymore. The Kryn fleet approached Earth like a storm cloud. 4,000 warships, the largest armada ever assembled in galactic history, all heading toward humanity's homeworld. High Commander Vorthok stood on his bridge, watching the blue planet grow larger on the view screen. This is where it ends, he said to Chancellor Drexus. We take their homeworld, and they surrender. They have to. Drexus said nothing. He'd stopped arguing with Vorthok days ago. The commander had become desperate, willing to risk everything on this single attack. What Vorthok didn't know was that Colonel Minho Ryu's Ghost Battalion had captured a Kryn prince during a raid on a forward command post. The prince, named Karvix, was young and had opposed the war from the beginning. Minho sat across from the captured prince in a small room aboard a human ship. Karvix expected torture, interrogation, maybe execution. Instead, the human offered him water and medical treatment for his wounds. Why are you helping me? Karvix asked, confused. Because we're not monsters, Minho said simply. Your commander thinks we are. But we're just people protecting our homes. Same as you would do. If someone attacked yours, then why capture me? What do you want? Minho pulled out a datapad showing casualty reports from both sides. We want you to see the truth. Your government started this war claiming we were a threat. But look at these numbers. We've lost hundreds of thousands of our people. You've lost millions. And for what? 12 colony worlds that we weren't going to attack you from anyway? Karvix looked at the reports. His eyes widened. The Kryn government had been lying about the casualty numbers, claiming minimal losses. But the truth was devastating. I'm sending you home, Minho said. You're going to deliver a message to your people. Tell them that humans don't want to destroy the Kryn. We just want you to leave us alone. Tell them that we'll accept peace anytime you're ready. But if you keep attacking, we'll keep fighting. And we'll never stop. Karvix was released with full medical care and transported to the Kryn border. He carried with him a data chip containing the full truth about the war, including battle recordings and casualty lists. Meanwhile, Earth was preparing for the battle of its existence. Admiral G1 stood in the war room, coordinating the defense with military leaders from every human colony. The Kryn will arrive in 6 hours, she said calmly. They outnumber us 8-1. They expect us to be terrified. But we're not, are we? No, ma'am, came the chorus of voices. Good. Because today, we teach the galaxy a lesson it will never forget. Today, we show them what happens when you threaten humanity's home. Captain Taemin Park stood on the bridge of the Defiant Hope, now repaired and upgraded with new weapons. Next to him, Dr. Hana Lee reviewed the tactical situation. We're outgunned and outnumbered, she said quietly. Story of human history. Taemin replied with a slight smile. We've overcome worse odds before. Lieutenant Dong-wook checked his weapons systems. Captain, all ships are reporting ready. The fleet is in position. What the Kryn didn't know was that Earth's defense wasn't just the visible fleet of 500 ships. Hidden throughout the solar system were thousands of automated weapons platforms, drone swarms, and the secret weapon, Project Spear, the lunar railgun array. The Kryn fleet entered Earth's solar system with confidence. They'd lost battles before, but this was different. This was the enemy's homeworld. No military in history had defended successfully against overwhelming force at their home planet. Vorthok broadcast a message on all human frequencies. People of Earth, this is your last chance. Surrender now, and we will be merciful. Fight, and we will turn your world to ash. The response came from an unexpected source. Not Admiral G1, not the government, but a coalition of human civilians. Artists, teachers, farmers, engineers, people from every walk of life. This is Earth, the message said. We've heard your demand. Here's our answer. Come try. The battle began with the Kryn fleet advancing in a massive formation. They expected the human fleet to meet them in traditional ship-to-ship combat. Instead, Admiral G1 activated Phase 1 of Earth's defense. Thousands of drone fighters launched from hidden platforms throughout the solar system. Each one was small, cheap, and operated by artificial intelligence. Individually, they were weak. Together, they were a swarm. The drones attacked like a cloud of insects, overwhelming Kryn sensors and targeting systems. They couldn't destroy the large warships, but they didn't need to. They just needed to create chaos. While the Kryn fleet was distracted, the human ships struck. They didn't fight as one fleet. They fought as dozens of small groups, each one attacking from a different angle, using different tactics. Captain Bora Shin's Silent Fury led a group of stealth ships through an asteroid field, emerging right in the middle of the Kryn formation. They fired on the engines of capital ships, crippling them without destroying them. Lieutenant Soo Young Park's intelligence division broadcast the conscience virus directly to the Kryn fleet. Thousands of Kryn crew members started receiving messages on their personal devices. Messages from home, protests, riots, their own people demanding an end to the war. Some Kryn ships began to hesitate. Their crews were confused, divided. Were they really fighting a just war? Or had their government lied to them? The battle raged for hours. The Kryn pushed forward, taking heavy losses but getting closer to Earth. Vorthak was determined. He'd come too far to turn back now. Then Admiral G1 activated Project Spear. The entire surface of Earth's moon lit up with electromagnetic energy. Dr. Subin Han's team had turned the lunar surface into the largest railgun ever built. It fired 10,000 projectiles simultaneously, each one accelerating to 30% the speed of light. When the projectiles hit the Kryn fleet, the results were catastrophic. Ships didn't just explode. They disintegrated. The kinetic energy was so immense that shields were useless. Armor was useless. Physics itself became the weapon. 2,000 Kryn ships were destroyed in the first volley. The survivors scattered in panic. But G1 wasn't finished. All ships, advance, push them back, make them understand that Earth is not conquerable. The human fleet charged forward with a fury that shocked the galaxy. Every ship was broadcasting the same message. This is our home. You will not take it. Taemin's defiant hope led a squadron directly at Vorthak's flagship. Dong-wook coordinated with 5 other ships, and they all fired simultaneously. The flagship's shields collapsed. Its weapons were destroyed. The ship itself was left drifting, powerless. Vorthak stood on his damaged bridge, watching his fleet fall apart around him. In the space of 3 hours, he'd lost half his remaining forces. The humans had done the impossible. They defended their homeworld against overwhelming odds. And then, something happened that Vorthak never expected. A massive fleet appeared at the edge of the solar system. But it wasn't another human fleet. It was Captain Taemin's coalition. 6 species, thousands of ships, all the people the Kryn had oppressed. The coalition broadcast a single message. The Kryn hegemony is finished. Any ship that surrenders now will be treated with mercy. Any ship that continues fighting will be destroyed. Vorthak's communication officer turned to him with fear in his eyes. Commander, we're receiving reports from the homeworld. There's been a coup. The Council of Clans has removed you from power. They're ordering all ships to cease fire and surrender immediately. No, Vorthak whispered. But it was. Across the Kryn fleet, ships began lowering their weapons and broadcasting surrender signals. The crews were tired of fighting. They wanted to go home. Chancellor Drexus walked up to Vorthak quietly. It's over, Commander. We lost. Not because the humans were stronger, but because we were wrong. Vorthak refused to accept it. He grabbed a weapon and tried to order his personal guard to continue fighting. But his own soldiers refused to follow him. They'd seen enough death. In a final act of desperation, Vorthak took control of a small fighter craft and launched alone toward Earth. He would complete his mission, even if he had to do it himself. Admiral Ji-won watched the single fighter approach. She could have destroyed it easily. Instead, she gave a different order. Target his engines only. Disable but don't destroy. Human ships fired precisely, knocking out the fighter's engines without harming the pilot. The craft went into a slow spin, helpless. G1 opened a channel directly to Vorthak. "Hi, Commander. This is Admiral G1 Song. Your war is over. Your fleet has surrendered. Your government has fallen. You can either accept rescue or drift in space until your life support runs out. Your choice." Vorthak sat in the disabled fighter, looking at Earth through the viewport. The blue planet that he'd tried to conquer. The home of the species that had defeated his mighty hegemony. "How?" he asked quietly. "How did you win?" "We had superior numbers, superior technology, superior everything." G1's voice was gentle but firm. "Because you were fighting for conquest. We were fighting for survival. You were following orders. We were protecting our families. You thought you were hunters. But humans are the apex predators of the galaxy, Commander. We're the species that never gives up, never surrenders, and never forgets our friends or our enemies." A human rescue ship picked up Vorthak and brought him to a detention facility. He would face trial for war crimes, but he would face it alive. The humans could have executed him on the spot. Instead, they followed their laws. The new Kryn government contacted Earth immediately. The message was simple and direct. "We surrender. Tell us your terms." Ambassador Yuna Choi addressed the Galactic Council in a packed chamber. Every species in the galaxy was watching. She looked calm and composed as she spoke. The Kryn hegemony attacked humanity without provocation. They demanded we surrender our worlds. They killed hundreds of thousands of our people. By every law of warfare, we could demand reparations that would cripple their economy for generations. We could occupy their worlds. We could do to them what they planned to do to us. The chamber was silent, waiting. "But we won't," Yuna continued. "Because that's not who humans are. Instead, these are our terms. First, the Kryn will return all conquered territories to their rightful owners. Second, they will pay reasonable reparations to help rebuild the colonies they damaged. Third, they will sign a non-aggression pact with humanity and all our allies. And fourth, they will open diplomatic relations with Earth and work toward peaceful coexistence." A Kryn delegate stood up, trembling. "That's all? You're not going to destroy us?" Yuna smiled sadly. "We never wanted to destroy you. We just wanted you to leave us alone. Humans don't seek conquest. We seek peace. But we will defend ourselves with everything we have." She turned to address the entire council. "Let this be a lesson to every species in the galaxy. There is an old rule, older than most of you realize. Do not challenge the humans. Today, I'm adding to that rule officially. A holographic display appeared showing the updated galactic rules of warfare. Rule 1. Do not challenge the humans. Rule 2. If you violate Rule 1, surrender quickly. Rule 3. Humans are the only species that will let you. We're not conquerors," Yuna said. "We're protectors. We're friends to those who treat us with respect. But we're the worst enemy you could ever imagine to those who threaten our homes. Choose wisely which one you want us to be." The Galactic Council ratified the rules formally. For the first time in history, a single species' reputation was written into galactic law. In the days that followed, something remarkable happened. Ships from 50 different species arrived at the damaged human colonies. They brought supplies, construction materials, and workers to help rebuild. The Kryn themselves sent an official apology and more aid than anyone expected. Captain Taemin and Dr. Hana stood on the surface of New Sejong, watching alien workers help humans rebuild the cities. "We won," Hana said quietly. "We did more than win," Taemin replied. "We showed the galaxy who we really are. Not monsters, not conquerors, just people who will fight like hell to protect what's ours, and then offer friendship to those who were our enemies." Lieutenant Dong-wook walked up with a smile. "I just got word from Earth. The Kryn are requesting permission to send students to human universities. They want to learn from us." Taemin laughed. "From wanting to destroy us to wanting to learn from us. That's quite a change." That's humanity, Hana said. We make friends out of enemies. We turn war into peace. And we never, ever give up. On Earth, Admiral G1 stood in front of a memorial wall, listing all the humans who had died in the war. Thousands of names. Each one, a person with a family, with dreams, with a life cut short. We won, she said quietly to the wall. And we made sure you didn't die for nothing. The galaxy is safer now. Peace is possible now. Because you stood firm. In a small room on the Kryn homeworld, former High Commander Vorthok awaited trial. A human guard brought him a meal and a datapad with news from across the galaxy. He read about the peace treaty, about the rebuilding, about former Kryn subjects now free and thriving, about his own people beginning to heal from the lies their government had told them. I violated the oldest rule, he said to himself. I challenged the humans. And I learned why that rule exists. The human guard heard him and nodded. Yes, sir. You did. But you also learned something else. Humans don't hold grudges. You'll get a fair trial. You'll have a chance to make amends. That's also who we are. Vorthak looked at the guard in surprise. Even now, even after everything, the humans were offering him dignity and justice. Your species is terrifying, he said quietly. The guard smiled. Only to our enemies. To our friends. We're the best allies you could ask for. Which one do you want to be? We. Vorthak thought about that for a long time. Across the galaxy, a new era was beginning. An era where the rule was known and respected. An era where humanity's reputation was built not on conquest, but on the simple, terrifying combination of compassion and overwhelming force. Do not challenge the humans. Not because they're cruel. Not because they're evil. But because they're the only species in the galaxy that fights with everything they have and then offers you peace when it's over. The Kryn had learned this lesson. The galaxy had watched them learn it. And now, everyone knew. Humanity wasn't just another species among many. They were special. They were unique. They were the apex predators who chose to be protectors instead of conquerors. And that made them the most powerful force in the galaxy. The war was over. Humanity had won. And in winning, they'd proven once again why the oldest rule existed. Do not challenge the humans. Because if you do, you won't just lose the war. You'll understand exactly why mercy from the strong is the most terrifying gift in the universe.